We've talked a lot about Sweden in the past few weeks, a horrific stabbing spree at an IKEA store there, where refugees from the North African country of Eritrea murdered a mother and her son. The latest in a crime wave that has seen Sweden's rape rate increase by more than 1,400%. Sweden, once known as the progressive liberal capital of the world, is now the rape capital of the world. What happened? Joining us now to try and make sense of this is Ingrid Carlqvist, a journalist from Sweden who joins us now via Skype. Ingrid, thanks so much for joining us. What has happened to the land of Volvos and IKEA and ABBA? How come Sweden has a higher rape crime rate now than any country in the world other than Lesotho?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? You know, I used to say that I was born in Sweden, but now I live in Absurdistan.
What happened?
What has happened is, yeah, you can actually count the days from 1975. Then the Swedish parliament decided that it was no good that Sweden was a homogeneous country of ethnic Swedes. That was no good. We should become a multicultural country. I don't know if the politicians at that time really understood what they were doing, or if they were just, showing how humane they were. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. But I'm sure one thing. The Swedes didn't know anything about this. This is something I found out just a few years ago, that the Swedish parliament actually decided that Sweden was not going to be Swedish anymore, but multicultural. And from that day on, of course, we had immigration before, but in a normal way.
Well, and that's the thing.
The people that came here, they came to work.
If someone in Sweden thought multicultural and multinational, they might think, Norway or Finland or Russia or the Baltic states or Germany. They might think other European countries with similar values. But what's happened is the immigration has come from only a certain set of particular cultures that are in some ways alien to the Swedish values of liberalism. I think if there had been mass immigration from Germany or Denmark, I don't know if these cultural clashes would have happened. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't. Can you tell me the nature and the source of the immigration, and what sort of screening process, if any, has been brought in? Are there any questions? Are there any background checks? Is there any test at all before someone who washes up on a boat or lands on a plane can say, I'm here in Sweden, give me my welfare?
Yeah, that's actually what you can do. Because, since at least 10 or 15 years, we have had so many immigrants to Sweden. Right now, it's about 100,000 every year. And remember, this country used to have 9 million inhabitants. Now we are reaching 10, and 1.5 of them are not born in Sweden. And that would be no problem if they came from Denmark or Germany or the United States or Canada. But now the people that come now, they come from Middle East, from North Africa, where Islam is the dominant religion and culture and ideology, and you all know about that. These are not these are not immigrants who want to become Swedish. They don't come here because they think that the Swedish way of living is so fantastic. Well, there's one fantastic thing, and that's the welfare state. And since there are so many people coming, and the Swedish politicians, they want to be the humanitarian superpower of the world. So they tell us different things. They tell us, first of all, we need immigration because we don't have so many children and people are getting so old. So we need immigration. But the people who come here, they can't read and write. They don't have any education. They don't have the skills. And you should also know that Sweden is the country in Europe that has the lowest market of low-skilled jobs, so to speak. We have, I think, 2% of the total jobs are for people with no or low skills. Mm-hmm. You need to be an engineer or something to get a job in Sweden. Even the Swedes can't get jobs now. Yeah, so they are telling us we need it, but the people they bring, they can't contribute, and they don't want to contribute to our society.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I believe that there are some people in those hellish civil war Sharia countries, Somalia, Afghanistan, Syria, Eritrea, which has its own troubles. I believe there are people there who are genuine refugees who want to get out of those places and want to make a better life in the Western way. But can you help me assess, of the 100,000 or so people a year coming from the Syrias and the Somalias, how many want to bring with them attributes from those countries like the supremacy of Islam, the supremacy of men over women, violence as a problem-solving technique, honor killings, no pluralistic democracy. I mean, there are surely some liberals in those countries, but are they even 1% of those who are flooding into Sweden?
Well, that's very difficult to know, Ezra, especially since the Swedish Migration Service, they don't even want to check what religion people have, because that would be racist. So we don't know what religion they have. We don't know how they feel about democracy. We don't know how they feel about Islam, supremacy, men being on top of women. We don't know about that because we don't ask them, and we don't even know who they are. More than 90% of those who come, they don't have passports, they don't have identification cards, and we don't have the time because there are so many coming. So the people who work at the migration service, they have one order: do it quickly. And what is the quickest way? Is to say yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, and there comes a point in time when even a super tolerant, progressive country like Sweden that is trying to outdo anyone else for humanitarianism, there comes a point in time when even a country like that realizes that in its desire to be the most tolerant, it is supporting intolerance. In its desire to be the most feminist country, it's now the highest rape country, and there comes a point in time when even feminists or women say enough is enough. Has that point arrived? I see that the Swedish Democrats, who want to crack down on this open immigration, are now the #1 party in the polls, and they've done well in recent elections. Can you give me a political update? Has Sweden finally said, we are committing suicide and we're actually killing our liberal values? Has Sweden become conservative?
Yeah, I think I can feel a change in Sweden since a few months back, and especially after the horrible slaughter in IKEA. We have seen for a long time that many Swedish people want to lower the immigration. I think the latest poll I saw was like 60 or 70% of the Swedes think that we take too many and we must, cut it. But the 7 parties in the parliament that are not the Sweden Democrats, they all want to keep it in this level. And they tell us we have to do it because we cannot say no to people who seek asylum. But of course, there are so many things you can do. You can send out signals, like, for example, Denmark is doing now. Denmark is planning to show commercials, ads in important newspapers in the Middle East, for example, to telling them that don't come to Denmark because we will say no to you. Sweden could do that, but the Swedish politicians don't want to do that. Only the Sweden Democrats. But the other 7 parties, they decided that the Sweden Democrats are racist, and they've been so good at telling people this. And of course, they have all the mainstream media on their side. So for many years, people were reluctant to even listen to the Sweden Democrats, because what if that makes me a racist? Mm-hmm. But now I think it has gone so far. People see so many things. It's the rape, it's the killings, it's everything that happened, the riots in the suburbs. So people are now, the Swedes are finally waking up. And I think that's very painful, because if you have been a tolerant person all your life, thinking that only racists say that we can't take these immigrants. There are not so many. Of course we can cope. Of course they want to be Swedish. Of course they love democracy. La 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 la. And one day you have to face the music and say, I was wrong. I've been conned. They fooled me. And that's very painful for many people.
Yeah. Ingrid, there's a saying in North America, a conservative is a liberal who's been mugged. I think in Sweden it might be a conservative Swede is a liberal Swede who's been raped. It's a terrible thing to say, but I think it's the truth. Ingrid Carlqvist, what a pleasure to talk with you. I hope to stay in touch in the months ahead.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.